Hello, welcome back to my channel. It is I, Abigail Grace, or Abby, and today I'm filming my first monthly reading wrap-up for the month of January. I read way too much in January, and we're gonna talk about it. First off, I would like to acknowledge I am wearing my House of Mass shirt because today House of Flame and Shadow released. It is the 30th of January when I'm filming this. I have started reading it. I'm about 40% through. I'm filming a whole reading vlog for that, so definitely come back for that if it's something you're interested in, because it will be full spoilers. But for now, we're doing my wrap up. As I said, I read a lot, so I'm gonna go through these as quickly as possible. First, I read Double Pucked, which was a hockey romance. It was Why Choose. This was like right over the new year. I was traveling and I had it downloaded on my Kindle, so I decided to read it. I'm not sure. I won't be continuing the series. It was fine. I don't think Why Choose is really for me. But it's for someone, that's for sure. So for now, I won't be continuing the series. I did end up giving Double Pucked 2 stars. Probably should have DNF'd it, but whatever. Then I read Enemies with Benefits by Roxy Noir. I'm not sure. I had almost completed this series this month actually, because they were all on Kindle Unlimited. They were like super short, spicy, fun. It followed brothers. So Enemies with Benefits follows like the second oldest brother. He's a chef. It's childhood enemies to lovers, and I gave it 3 stars. It was a fun, cute, small town romance. Then, this is sitting next to me, but okay. Then I reread and finished A Court of Frost and Starlight because I was rereading in preparation for House of Flame and Shadow. As I mentioned in probably last month's reading wrap up, I read this one. It's a reread. It's not my favorite in the ACOTAR series. I gave it 4 stars. So you know what it's about. It's like a Christmas novella, and it's the last like books from Thayr's point of view. Next, I read Best Fake Fiancé, which is the second in that Loveless Brothers series. This one follows like one of the middle brothers. He is a single dad and he needs his best friend to pretend to be his fiance so he can keep custody of his child. And that's the plot. Again, small town romance. It was great. I gave it 3 stars. Maybe not great, but it was good enough where I wanted to keep reading the series. Hey, Emma. What? Emma, I'm filming in my room. Just FYI. Okay. Next, I read The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson. This is like an Omegaverse book, which I learned that term this month. It was really good. It was my first book like in this universe, the Omegaverse. I thought it was a fun way to get into it. They're like werewolves, but they live in like the normal human world, and it's a love story. It's like fake marriage, fake mates, and I learned a lot about like this world. I did some research after I read this because I really knew nothing about like the Omegaverse or any of that stuff. And I'm excited. It's similar to like Bride by Ali Hazelwood that comes out later this year, so I really enjoyed that one and I gave it 4 stars. Next, I reread this one as well, From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. And Mariana Zapata is known for her slow burns, and I read this last year at around the same time and in January. I thought it was hockey the first time I read it. It's not hockey. They're just ice skaters, pairs, and they pair up. They're like enemies to lovers, but literally so slow burn. and it's great. It's 5 stars. This is such a good one, and I think about it constantly, and it also made me want to watch The Cutting Edge, which I did in fact watch. Kate's joining us. Next, I reread A Court of Silver Flames. Again, this was in preparation for House of Flame and Shadow. Still good, still 5 stars. Still hate Nesta at the beginning and then grow to love her, but this is a thick boy, and I enjoyed rereading it because it'd been like a year since I'd read it, and I wanted to be prepared. And I do think Silver Flames, because it's the most recent, is the most important to reread before you go into Flame and Shadow. That's 5 stars. Next, I read With Love from Cold World. This is by Alicia Thompson. She also wrote Love in the Time of Serial Killers, which I have not read but might read after this one. The general premise of this is that our main characters work at this like amusement park type thing that's Cold World, but it's in Florida, and their boss tasks them with working together to try and like come up with a plan to help generate more revenue, and they don't get along, but of course it's a love story. So I actually enjoyed this one. I read it for a video, but I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Next, I read the 3rd Loveless Brothers book, which was Break the Rules, and this is best friend's sister or brother's best friend, depending on which side you tell it from, which I loved. There's a little bit of an age gap, it's a few years, but yeah, brother's best friend, like keeping it a secret. The main guys in this are just so rugged, especially this one, and there was kind of a mystery involved, which was fun, but I still gave it 3 stars. Next, I read Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This was also a reread. Something about it was just calling to me. I decided I wanted to reread this. I love Ali Hazelwood, and I reread Love on the Brain last year and decided, what the heck, I'm gonna reread this one too. This is a STEM romance, and it's set in the world of like physics, of experimental versus theoretical physics. I don't know. It's a STEM romance. I don't know what to tell you. That's the only way I can explain it. Rival physicists collide in a vortex of academic feuds and fake dating shenanigans, from Ali Hazelwood. So there's that, and that's 5 stars. Upon reread, still 5 stars. It's a good one. Next, I read The Hookup Equation, which is the 4th Loveless Brothers book, and this was a student professor one, and I actually did not enjoy that very much because she was actually a student in his class. It was like just too much for me. Also, sorry, there's like something happening outside my window, but so I gave this one 2 stars. It wasn't my favorite out of the series, and because of that, I actually haven't read the last one in the series because I was like, this one left a bad taste in my mouth, but there is another one that I will probably read at some point. Next, I read These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. This is the first in a duology. It's a fantasy, a YA fantasy, and it's kind of a Cinderella retelling, but also not. It's love triangle-esque vibes. She's like, has this bargain that she's made with like the evil king to help save her sister. There's twists and turns, although some of it did feel kind of obvious to me, like the reveal at the end I wasn't that shocked by. I think because it's YA and I've been reading more adult fantasy, that it felt YA to me, and it didn't feel super like engaging with some of the twists and turns, but I will probably still read the second one. I have not read it yet, but it was good. Not my favorite fantasy that I've read recently. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Probably a 3.5, but on Goodreads it was a 3. Next, I read Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This was the last of Rachel Lynn Solomon's like back catalog that I had not read, and it was so good. I've talked about her before. She writes very inclusively, I think. Like, her characters can be plus sized, they're often Jewish. I appreciate this from her. This was cute. Both of the main characters work at like a news station. She's a weather girl and he does sports, and it's kind of like Set It Up, the movie with Lynn Powell, where they're trying to get their bosses together so that their jobs are better. So that's that one, and I ended up giving that 4 stars. Next, another reread, but one that I hadn't read since I was in high school, so years ago, is Cinder. This is the first in the Lunar Chronicles. This is a Cinderella retelling, but it's also a fantasy, a YA fantasy. She's a cyborg, and the premise of the whole series is like the Lunars, and like the Lunar Queen is evil and she's like trying to take over, and Cinder is the like linchpin in that story. Anyway, it was good. Again, it's a reread, but I ended up giving this one 3 stars. Again, something about the YA of it, I wasn't super enthralled. I will probably continue this series because I want to reread them because I remember enjoying them, but who knows? Probably not soon. Then I read The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy. This is like the spin-off / like next generation series for the off-campus books, also by Elle Kennedy. These are hockey romances. I think Elle Kennedy is the blueprint for hockey romance, and I really liked this one. It was enemies to lovers, I guess, is the best trope I can use to describe it. Maybe more rivals to lovers. But it was good. It was sweet. It's a little spicy, but not too spicy. I think Elle Kennedy does such a good job of writing hockey romance. Yep.
I was gonna go to Sonic. Do you want something?
Uh-huh.
Will you just text it to me just so I can make sure you put them right?
Do you want me to order it?
Well, I'm gonna go pick up my groceries and then I'm gonna go.
Okay. I'll text it to you.
Whatever you want. I'm fine to just, you always pay for it, I'll just pay for it.
Okay. I'll text you my order then.
Yeah.
Next, I started the Edens series, which I have read several of these this month, again, because they're all on Kindle Unlimited. They're like super short, another small town romance series. And the first one's kind of like a murder mystery, which was fun. Not all of them are like that, but the first one is. So that was a fun way to get into the series. Indigo Ridge is the first one. These are by Devney Perry. The first one is like, I don't know, it's like a one-night stand that she thought she would never see again, and then turns out he's like a big part of the town where she's the new chief of police, and they have to work together to kind of like solve these murders. I gave that one 4 stars. Okay. I read Hollow Court, which is the Lachlan Deception, book number 1. Last year I read the Lachlan Feuds, which is a 5-book series that I absolutely loved. The whole series is 5 stars, and so this is like a continuation of that story with... Okay! This is a continuation of that story where the main characters are... It's different main characters, but it's in the same world. I didn't like it as much as the Lachlan Feuds. I don't know if I'll keep going in the series, like whether it's worth it to know like how their story ends when I didn't like this first one. I think there's only 2, like it's only a duology, at least for right now. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It's like fake marriage, fake betrothal, and this battery is about to die on my camera, but I'm gonna keep going until it goes out. Next, I read Well Met by Jen DeLuca. I also read this for a video that has not come out yet, so you'll see that soon, but I've had this on my shelf for years. It's a Renaissance fair. It's set at a Renaissance fair, and after I read this one, I ordered all the rest of the books in the series because I wanted to know like how these would keep going, and it made me really start. I was like, oh, maybe I should go to a Renaissance fair. That'd be kind of fun, right? So anyway, I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and I'd had it on my shelf for so long, and it just took a video for me to finally read it. Next, I read The Fine Print by Laura Nasher because I read Love Redesigned last month and I liked it, and that's the only Laura Nasher book I've ever read, so I decided to pick up another one just to see. I did not like this one. I ended up giving it 2 stars. It was so cringe and chuggy to me. I think because it's like set at like a Disney World. It was just giving Disney adult. I did not like it. I did finish it, but I did think about DNFing it. DNFing it. Next, I read Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Again, this was a reread. I'm just rereading some of my favorite like fantasy books that I read in like high school and college. This is one of them. It's very good. Still 5 stars. Still so good. I will be reading Crooked Kingdom next because this series is so good and I love the found family of this. It's part of the Shadow and Bone Grishaverse, so if you saw that show or read those books, this is the same universe. Next, I read Coach by Devney Perry because I kind of was like, oh, maybe I should read another Devney Perry. I liked the Edens. I did not love Coach. It was fine. It was like friends to enemies to lovers. He's a single dad. He's a coach at the football. They're co-workers. Those are kind of the things that happen. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Again, it's just fine. And as I'm reflecting back, I'm like, I read so many books and only a few were like really good, like 4 or 5 stars. And it's I was just reading a lot of garbage this month, apparently. Not garbage, but just like nothing crazy. I read a lot of Kindle Unlimited like stuff, and I'm not mad, but it also like, why, you know? Next, I read These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I read both of the books in this duology this month, actually. It's a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in Shanghai in the 20s. It's fantasy, thriller, I don't know how to describe it, historical, because it is like set in the 20s when communism was coming to China. I was confused at first and then I loved it. Book 2, I ended up giving 5 stars. Book 1 was 4 stars. Like, parts of book 2, just like the love story between Romeo and Juliet is truly so good. And their names aren't Romeo and Juliet, it's Roma and Juliet. But their love story, like, it was such a good retelling. And I think props to Chloe Gong for this. I know there's other books in this universe and I have them, which is like, okay, sorry, camera died. I've got a new battery. Foul Heart Huntsman and the other books in that series, and Found Lady Fortune. I have them. I will be reading them. I'm excited. I just haven't gotten around to them yet. Also this month, on the rereading train, I reread House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath. Again, in preparation for House of Flame and Shadow. These are both 5 stars. These are both so good. I love Sarah J Maas. And I actually listened to these on Audible because I read them in November, so not that long ago, and I just decided I was going to listen to them. So I listened to both of these in the midst of like reading other things. And they're still top tier for me. Next, I read Juniper Hill, which is the Edens book 2. Again, small town romance. This one is, I don't know how to describe. She's a single mom. He like takes her under his wing. She's on the run, but we don't really know why. It ended up being 3 stars for me. Okay, my camera battery did die and I had to take a break and charge it. So the lighting is a little different now, but I don't even remember what I was talking about. Let me go back to my phone. Oh, wait for it. Mariana Zapata. Again, after I read From Luke Off With Love, I was like, ooh, maybe I want another Mariana Zapata. I love From Luke Off With Love. Maybe I'll love some of her other books. So I chose Wait For It, which is, it's just a romance. It's a slow burn romance. The FNC, the main character, Diana, she is the like guardian of her two nephews, and the MMC coaches baseball, is also her neighbor, and yeah, coaches one of her boys' baseball team. So that's kind of how they meet. Also, he's her neighbor. They form a friendship. But as I said about Mariana Zapata, it's slow burn. The whole book, they're just friends. And you're like, when are they gonna get together? They finally get together at the end, and it's good. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I appreciated this one, and I will probably read even more Mariana Zapata in the coming months. Next I read Well Played, also by Jen DeLuca. This is the second after Well Met, which I talked about earlier in that like Ren Fair series. The kind of thing with this one is Stacy, our main character, she is like messaging with who she thinks is this guy that like is a traveling musician that comes to the Ren Fair every summer, but it turns out she was not messaging the guy that she thought she was messaging, and it's actually like the manager of that group. And when they show up at the fair the next year, she's like, wait, I haven't been talking to you all year, it's been someone else. So that's like the general background for this. Again, it's set at a Ren Fair. I just love it. It's so fun and like fantasy and like chuggy, and I just, something about it is fun. I love the Ren Fair vibes. So I ended up giving that one 4 stars as well. And like I said, I have the other 2 books in that series and I will be reading them. I'm very excited. Next, all month I was reading like a chapter a night of I Didn't Know I Needed This by Eli Rallo. She was the drawer on TikTok, but she's a TikToker slash podcaster slash author. This is her debut book. It came out in December, and all month I've been like reading it. It's nonfiction, and it's like kind of, I don't want to say a self-help book, but it's like rules for, she does on her TikTok like rules for dating, rules for whatever. So she did like rules for, each chapter is rules for different things. There's rules for flirting, rules for dating apps, all that jazz. It was really fun, and I'm actually going to her like live show. She's doing a book tour slash podcast live show, and I'm going to it actually tomorrow. So I wanted to finish this before then, but I'm not really a nonfiction girly, and I still really enjoyed this. I gave it 5 stars just because I love Eli and it was a good book, but I don't usually rate nonfiction books on Goodreads, but I wanted to support her, and that's a good way to support authors that you like, is by giving them good ratings on Goodreads, marking books as want to read, all that jazz. Next, and finally, I read Garnet Flats, which is the 3rd Eden's book. And this is second chance romance. It was really good. Again, there was kind of, not a mystery, but like, there was another like aspect of things that I was like, oh, why did this happen? I guess it could be termed a mystery. It was like an interesting subplot to just the romance, which I loved. So I will be continuing with the Edens. And those are all of the books that I read this month. It was a lot. I read 30 books for 31 days of January, so a book a day, basically. It was excessive, as I said at the beginning, but I read a few good things and some bad things this month. And I, as I said, am currently reading House of Flame and Shadow. I don't think I will finish it today, but I might finish it tomorrow, so it will technically be a January read, but I'll put it in next month's reading wrap up because I haven't finished it yet, so I can't give you my thoughts, and I wanted to film this with time to like upload it and edit it and all that stuff. So you can watch the reading vlog when that comes out though, if you are anxiously awaiting my House of Flame and Shadow thoughts. Watch that video and you'll get them without having to wait for February's reading wrap up. So that being said, thank you for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.